As China becomes a bigger player on the world stage of international business, everyone else takes on new roles, even multinational corporations. So what can we expect? Here to tell us is Warren Liu, a seasoned executive and entrepreneur based in Shanghai. He's at INSEAD talking to MBA students in a China strategy elective, and he's also the author of a new book called China Key Success Factors. Welcome.
Thank you.
What are some of the emerging trends that will impact the way multinationals do business in China?
Well, I can think of a few, beginning with demographic changes, with emphasis on two elements. Number one, the declining rate of population growth, and number two, the increasingly aging population of China, both of which will have long-term social as well as economic impact. Another element that will affect multinational corporations doing business in the future in China would be increasing urbanization throughout China. Yet another element has a lot to do with the economic growth model of China during the first 30-plus years of China's economic reform, which began in 1978. Largely relying on and leveraging on foreign knowledge, management techniques, technology, as well as capital. At the beginning, almost welcoming any foreign investment without any criteria for screening, if you will. That clearly has changed.
In your book, you identify 11 key success factors based on your analysis of 8 industries. And these are factors like brand strategies, managing government relations, price competitiveness, localization, and so on. Looking forward, which of these are going to continue to stay important? And do you see any new success factors emerging?
In the future, Chinese government will cease to become directly involved in managing macroeconomic issues that directly affect business decisions, such as what business partner I can or should choose, where am I going to set up my factory, which ministry do I need approval from, and so on and so forth. But the Chinese government will continue to play an important role, certainly in industrial policy setting, in price control, in select industries, and also in setting new policies related to regional development, for example, that directly and indirectly will affect enterprises, foreign and domestic. What I want to emphasize is that as the eastern part of China, that is what I view as the part of China that's approaching the market characteristics of the developed economies of the world, we are going to see more and more of the traditional business requirements. The Chinese government will encourage companies to expand to inland China, that is middle China as well as western China. The future success factors required of multinational corporations doing business in China will vary as you go from eastern China to inland and western China. It's a complex market, and I think any experienced multinational corporation that has a full-blown ambition for China as a integrated market will need to look at carefully at segmented strategy after identifying its target segments based on various dimensions, including urban versus rural, as well as the geographic dimensions.
Are there industries where domestic companies have a government-sponsored competitive edge over foreign companies?
There are plenty of them. This is nothing new. I mean, government policies, even in the face of WTO, to aid and support select industries for various economic, business, as well as political reasons abound. Right? I know for a fact that American government, for example, for years have been subsidizing the agricultural industry. The Chinese government have been for years aiding and supporting various manufacturing industries and encouraging these industries and companies to export, resulting in, of course, the creation and accumulation of a huge trade surplus, among other things. Of course, Chinese government will continue to do that, not just in the manufacturing industry that I mentioned earlier, but in new and emerging industries, such as green technology-related industries, through various means.
So how will multinationals compete?
I think multinationals in the recent years in particular have been increasingly facing a dilemma. I think in the past few years in particular, there's been a growing misconception on the part of some that Chinese government is no longer welcoming foreign investment. Well, I don't think that's true. I think the Chinese government is still very much trying to encourage foreign investment. The difference between that stance of the Chinese government today versus 1978 or the decade of the 1980s and the decade of the 1990s is that today the Chinese government is becoming more selective in taking the kind of foreign investment the Chinese government would like to see, which, by the way, is only natural as the Chinese economy evolves through different stages, as other economies have. Right? At the beginning, Japan relied on manufacturing, as did Taiwan, Korea, just to name a few nearby neighboring countries. China is walking through the same path. During the first 30 years, we relied heavily on labor-intensive, resource-intensive industries, encouraging foreign investment of all kinds, almost without any screening criteria or limitation or constraint, which resulted in some of the consequences that I mentioned earlier, including environmental impact. But ultimately, I for one believe that the most effective way to continue to lead in technology is to continue to make an investment, continue to innovate, continue to be one or preferably a few steps ahead of your imitators, including your Chinese imitators. That's the most effective way of staying as a technological industry leader.
What kind of talent do multinationals require, and where are they finding this talent, or are they importing it?
I think at the beginning, the multinational corporations have imported a lot of their domestic talents or international talents from their home country and other country markets. I still see a shortage of locally grown, experienced management talents for multinational corporations. By and large, I think the smartest way to grow talents for China operation is to develop your own. In the case of a temporary shortage, borrow from sister operations, either from headquarters or other country markets. Smarter multinational corporations with enviable, impressive track record of managing their human talents over the long haul have, for example, adopted practices that keep them close to many of the top schools, universities, and graduate schools throughout China. Institutions such as INSEAD, and maintaining continuous working relationship with these institutions. And they're very active, not just during recruiting seasons, but throughout the year with different cooperative programs, setting up R&D centers, for example, in some of these universities. These are just some of the ways that I would encourage multinational corporations to learn from with a long-term attitude towards that very important topic of keeping your talent pool always full, ready, and available.
Warren Liu, thank you for joining us on INSEAD Knowledge.
It's been a pleasure.